So once upon a time, there was a wise man who lived in a small village at the foot of a mountain. He was known for his wisdom and his deep love for nature. One day, a young man approached him and asked him, "Master, what can I do to care for the earth?" The wise man smiled and said, "The earth is like a mother to us. She provides us with everything that we need to survive, but we must take care of her in return. If you want to care for the earth, you must start by taking care of yourself. Eat healthy food, get enough rest, take care of your body, and then you will have enough energy and strength to care for the earth." The young man listened attentively, but asked, but what can I do directly to help the earth? The wise man replied, "Well, you can start by being mindful of your actions. Reduce your consumption of resources, recycle and reuse what you can, avoid harmful chemicals, for every small action counts. And if we all do our part, we can make a big difference." The young man nodded in agreement and then asked, "But what if others don't care about the earth?" And the wise man smiled, and again he said, "It's true, my son, that not everyone will care for the earth. But that shouldn't stop us from doing what we can. It shouldn't stop us from leading by example, from inspiring others and spreading the word about the importance of caring for the earth. Remember, we are all connected. And what we do to the earth, we do to ourselves." The author of the psalm that we read together understood this connection between the earth and humanity. In fact, he was well schooled probably in the second creation story, which he surely knew, where we are told that God takes the earth and breathes into the earth the breath of life and creates the first human being. And in the Hebrew, those words, human and earth, sound very similar. We are told God creates da Adam out of the Adamah. We've continued this beautiful etymological connection in our word. We use the word human, right? And where does that word come from? It comes from the Latin humus, which means the soil, the earth. Ancient wisdom understood our innate connection. And today we live at a time where not only do we know this is mythologically and spiritually true, but it is actually a scientific fact that we are made of the same basic elements that we find throughout the universe and on earth, elements which have been recycled and gone through a series of life and death and life again experiences, as Carl Sagan so famously said. He said, "The nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies, we're made in the interiors of collapsing stars. We are literally made of star stuff." And it's not just true for us, it's true for the earth and all of our fellow creatures. And not only are we a part of the same thing, our fellow creatures are part of us. Biologist Lewis Thomas points out that our human bodies, this may make you a little uncomfortable, are shared, rented, and occupied by countless other tiny organisms without whom we couldn't move a muscle, drum a finger, or think a thought. You have more, quote, non-human, as if that's even a category, cells in your body than you do human cells. And without these, quote, non-human cells, you wouldn't be able to think, feel, or speak. That's how connected we are to all of the creatures and all of creation. The earth, the air, the water that we share with everything is a gift of God for us, as St. Francis understood so beautifully. And as he expresses in his Canticle of the Creatures, he says, "Be praised, my Lord, through brother wind and air and clouds and storms and all the weather through which you give your creatures sustenance." We were hoping to go outside today, but you know what? It's raining, and that's a good thing. Be praised, my Lord, through sister water. She is very useful and humble and precious and pure. Be praised, my Lord, through our sister Mother Earth, who feeds us and rules us and produces a variety of fruits and colored flowers and herbs. We aren't praising Sister Air and Sister Water and Sister Earth as we might, and we're not caring for these gifts the way God calls us to. And that reality doesn't just affect the earth. It doesn't just affect all of our creatures, our fellow creatures, but it affects all of us as we continue to pour into creation all these non-organic substances. One example, microplastics. They are in our water. They are in the food that we eat. They are in the air that we are breathing. And they are making their ways into our lungs, our bowels, and our blood. And we don't even begin to understand how that will affect us and how it is already affecting us and how it will affect generations to come. In his recent article, Our Way of Life is Poisoning Us, Marc O'Connell wrote, "The unthinkable harm that we have done to the planet, that is done to the planet on our behalf as consumers, is being visited in this surreal and lurid manner on our own bodies. When we look at the decomposing bodies of trash-filled birds, we know that we are looking not just at what we're doing to the world, but we're looking at what our damaged world is already doing to us. How has it come to this? And what can we do to move forward?" Unlike the psalmist, I think, unlike St. Francis, unlike so many of our ancestors, we need to return to a deep reverence for creation. Everything is holy. It's always been holy, but we are the ones who've stopped seeing it. We've stopped seeing creation in the way that our scripture teaches us, to see it as the handiwork of God, a reality that God cares for and loves deeply and tasks us to do the same. We no longer see creation as a sacrament, a visible manifestation of God's invisible grace in and through which the Christ is present. Instead of seeing sacramentally, as William Sloane Coffin put it, we see creation as our own personal toolbox for our use. Ecological poet and prophet Wendell Berry, who works tirelessly to help people see sacramentally, said, "Although we must daily break the body and shed the blood of creation," and we do, we ought not do it ignorantly, greedily, clumsily, destructively, for to do so is a desecration. And in doing so, we condemn ourselves to spiritual and moral loneliness, and we condemn ourselves and all creatures to want. Today, we can look at the earth from outer space, and we can see it in its larger context. And we now know that the earth is actually one giant, living, breathing cell with all of its parts working together symbiotically. And while our ancestors were not privy to the science that we are, their spiritual intuitions were spot on. And we would be wise to integrate our scientific knowing with their spiritual wisdom to understand again how precious and fragile this sacred gift is. We would be wise to learn again to stand in awe and wonder and respect for this gift. Like the Native Americans whose land we took, they believed that they were stewards of God's creation or the Great Spirit's creation. They believed they had a responsibility to that gift. And they believed that they were not just to use it with a thought for how it would benefit them, but with thought to how it would benefit those who come after them. They understood that their actions had consequences for up to 7 generations of children after them. And so they believed that they should make choices and take actions today that would benefit 7 generations of children after them. That's wisdom. That's what we need to reclaim. It's been in our tradition, but we didn't want to see it. It's painful to see this. But as Christians, we ought to be leading the way in helping people see. So on Earth Day, it's great that we can understand, as we now do, how forests provide oxygen and filter pollutants from the air and help to regulate the climate, all of which are true. It's good that we know that the animals of the forest contribute to the ecosystem. They pollinate flowers, they spread seeds, which they do. It's good that we know that many forests are actually sharing resources, communicating through chemical signals, coordinating growth and defense against pests and diseases, which they do. All of this is good. But it's not good enough if we don't marry our knowledge with the wisdom of knowing that we are stewards of this good and precious and fragile ecosystem. And we are called to protect it from harm and to help it thrive. And yes, it's true that not everyone will share our love for creation, but that shouldn't stop us from doing what we can. Leading by example, inspiring others, and spreading the word about the importance of caring for the earth. It shouldn't stop us from remembering always that we are connected. And what we do to the earth is what we do to our fellow creatures, and it is ultimately what we do to ourselves, and it is what we do to the divine. So today, as part of our prayer, as part of the message, we're going to get quiet and we're going to use our eyes, our God-given gift. And if you ever want to learn about the mystery of creation, understand what it takes for eyes to be able to see. It's remarkable, the intricacy of God's creation, God's design. But we're going to use this gift and we're going to practice something called Visio Divina, which means visual prayer or sacred seeing, an ancient form of Christian prayer in which we allow our hearts and our imaginations to enter into the sacred image in silence, to see what God might be saying to us and to offer our prayer for everything that we see, for everything is our brother and sister. And then following the prayer experience, we're going to conclude with a version of the Lord's Prayer from the New Zealand Prayer Book, which was an attempt to be even more faithful to the original Aramaic of that prayer.